Welcome to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'm Bernie Flowers, one of Uncle Sam's wayward children. I believe that our country's best days are still in front of us, but if those best days are to come, we need to change the direction of the country now, before it's too late. I intend to talk about important issues and topics every week in hopes of helping to improve our country and our way of life. Please like, share, and subscribe. Our guest for episode number 43 is Mr. Anthony Rader. Anthony is the host of the Politically Unhinged podcast and is a young conservative fighting for the constitutional rights of the American people. He helped run the most successful grassroots campaign in the history of Maryland back in 2022. After the election, Anthony started his own podcast, Politically Unhinged, covering stories that the national media refuses to acknowledge. From there, he'd become the voice in a conservative movement by speaking out on unconstitutional bills and telling people to speak out against the ideas that they don't support, and being vocal on how the people should be governed. His belief system has propelled his channels to go viral multiple times. Since taking his first few steps in politics, Anthony has become Howard County's 2023 Young Republican of the Year, and he plans on running for office in the near future. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Bernie. Thank you so much for having me on.
Man, thank you for doing this for us. We've been talking about this for several months, and we're finally getting around to it, and I'm so proud to have you on. Now, I got a few questions for you. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Outstanding. First, why did you start your podcast?
It's actually a great story. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't necessarily think I wanted to be in politics for the longest time, but looking at the build-up throughout my entire life, it seems like it was inevitable. And what happened was, after we ran the most successful campaign in Maryland, grassroots-wise anyway, that I was just like, I just want to keep on doing this. I want to keep on going ahead and giving people the information that they need to be successful and to understand what's actually going on here. Because I don't know if you've noticed, the national media has been going on and saying all this stuff that is blatantly untrue. They know it's untrue, and they don't care.
They don't care.
And it just got to that point where I was just like, we need someone to do it. I was like, if someone's going to do it, it might as well be me. So I took that step forward, and I'm like, we're going to go ahead. We're going to give the news truthfully, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to challenge these ideologies that the left has put against us. And it's just honestly insane that the left has gone ahead and just been insane for this long. I mean, not too long ago, 10 years ago, we could actually agree on something that was very true.
Shocking.
And now we can't. It's just got to that point where it's just unhinged by them. And so I'm just like, it's time to battle against them. And it's just right there. That's why we do it. That's why I'm doing it. We need a force to go ahead and battle the left, battle the politicians that are not doing anything for us. And it's great to see people actually standing up once again. I would like to take some credit for it, obviously, but I think it's just gotten to that point where people are ready to actually do things.
I like it. I like it a lot, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I follow you. That's why you're here. So, another question for you. When did you start getting involved in politics, and why?
Yeah, like I said, I think it was just inevitable. Ever since I was in elementary and middle school, I would talk about the Constitution. I would talk about all this different stuff that happened in American history. And when I was a football player back in the day, elementary, middle school era, I would honestly give these speeches to my teammates at halftime, picking their heads up. I was a little kid. Did I think this was going to go anywhere? No. But here I am in my mid-20s. I'm leading one of the biggest movements that we're seeing in the youth. Youth, by the way, and I honestly cannot believe it. It's just gotten to that point where, like, I am very proud of what we are doing here. I am very proud that we got people that are like you, Bernie, going ahead and showing the way for people that are young, just as myself, how to do things correctly. Because for far too long,
Well, your parents have been a pretty big influence too, by the way. They're good people.
They've been tremendous influences, and they've backed me up for everything that I've been wanting to do. So, and I honestly couldn't have asked for better people in my corner.
There you go. Another question for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
If you were elected president, what would be the very first thing that you would do?
I've thought about this for years, and it's gotten to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to sign the most executive orders in a day, in all honesty. I want to give the rights back to the people. I want to be relinquishing the power of the executive branch back to the legislature. Right? And we've never seen a president do that in our lifetimes anyway. Trump has done it a little bit, but I am going to relinquish the power to declare war from the executive branch back to the legislative. That will be one of the things I do on day one. Mm-hmm. And I am going to go ahead. I am going to appeal every single unconstitutional gun bill that has been placed on the American people.
So, I do understand. Okay, I got another question for you.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley seems doomed to failure in her primary bid against Donald Trump. Everybody sees it. The Real Clear Politics average has him up 71-13 by percentage points. So why hasn't she dropped out of the race yet?
Pretty simple. Her funding from the deep state. Ooh. She is the deep state candidate for everyone here in the Republican Party. She goes ahead and she states every single thing that the Republicans do not actually stand for anymore. She's the deep state candidate. She's got the funding from the deep state and all these different conglomerates. People were saying that, it was DeSantis before her. DeSantis never took any of that money. He never did. He didn't want any of that money. Nikki Haley, however, she's taking the money left and right. Right. More so from the left because they're just pushing her in there. Right. And she's basically the Hillary Clinton of this race right now. Because she's talking exactly like Hillary, saying that, like, I've never said that. I never changed my name because I never thought that someone would vote for a brown person. When she's gone on record saying that multiple times. And she debates, honestly, like one of the worst debaters ever because she never owns up to the things that she said. While we have actual video evidence going ahead and showing her this is what you said. And it's just honestly like to that point where it's just like, Nikki Haley, what on earth are you doing? What on earth? Like, there's no reason for you to be in this race. Like you said, you're down by like 60, 70 points right now. Why on earth are you still in this race? I've already said, I think she's going to drop out after South Carolina. But, however, the reason why she's still in it, though, is that she believes if something were to happen to Donald Trump, if one of these indictments somehow goes through and says that, like, Donald Trump is actually guilty of this, which none of these held precedents whatsoever. All right, you're going to charge one guy for something, you might as well charge all of them. Every single president has documents everywhere, so. But that's another topic for another day. Hey, and the thing is with Nikki Haley, she's hoping on that. She's looking at that, going ahead and saying, like, yes, that needs to happen, and I can become the nominee. However, the American people do not like her whatsoever. And like we've seen her up against DeSantis. Even in South Carolina, DeSantis was beating her by like 10 points before he suspended his campaign. She was the lowest polling in her own state. Why is that? Why was she the lowest one?
I'm supposed to be objective here as a pseudo-journalist, and you got me laughing. But go ahead, Ben. It's very entertaining to me. Everybody knows where I stand, so we might as well go ahead.
All right. The reason why she was so low is because she did a terrible job. She did a terrible job as governor. She did a terrible job as the UN ambassador for Trump, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why Trump wanted to replace her, because she was awful at the job. And the reason why she's actually even lower in South Carolina and only gained a few percentage points, it's in the state, is literally because the Chris Christie Republicans have gone ahead and shown her support to her. But like right there, that's only like about 2 or 3% of the country.
There you go.
Yeah. So she's begging on something happening for Trump, and just going ahead and saying like, oh yeah, something's going to happen to Trump. So therefore, as the second person in the race, I will be the candidate. Even though that's never going to work. The Republican caucus is going to look at her and go like, really?
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 Oh, man. That's too funny. Man, I got another question for you. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Right now, the floor is yours. Say whatever is on your mind. The people want to hear from you.
You gonna put me up like that? All right.
That's what I do. You know I'm going to go. You know I'm going to throw it at you. You got to throw a grenade.
All right. So let's do it then. So I want to talk about James Madison, the actual writer of the Constitution, unlike people saying Thomas Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
That's factual. Also, James Madison was in his 20s and 30s when he wrote it.
Wow.
So, brilliant man. And he would be discouraged to see how the right and the left have gone ahead and just thrown out his entire belief system.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly disappointing to see that they have gone ahead and said, like, oh, we don't need to go ahead and abide by this. We've actually had people on the left saying that the Constitution is no longer a living document.
Oh, my God. Crazy.
Yeah. So these people are going ahead saying, oh, it's no longer a living document. We don't have to abide by it. But at the same time, they try to go ahead, well, the Second Amendment only applies to militias.
Yeah.
What's a militia? Do you know the actual definition for a militia, Bernie?
I'm going to ask you, man. You're the expert.
The definition of a militia is just a group of citizens that have guns going ahead and performing whatever they want. Like, you and me, we can be a militia, all right? If we go somewhere in the forest and start shooting something, I don't know, like a squirrel, we're technically a militia right there.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's no actual legal bicep of going ahead and becoming one.
Mm-hmm.
One. And people go ahead and they're just like, it's only militias that can do it. No, there's a reason why they have commas. And it's called the Oxford comma that they use in there. Because they're just listing off what the Second Amendment does. Right to militia, right to bear arms. They're just listing it off. And people do not understand that.
I don't mean to cut you off, but you got me to thinking about something, and I'm going to throw another grenade at you. Texas border. Talk to me.
Oh. All right. So
I know you got some thoughts on it.
I got a lot of thoughts on it. As someone that grew up on the border in Arizona, Texas is right. Texas should 100% be securing that border. The amount of fentanyl that has come across the border from 2019 and 2022, just looking at those two statistics alone, more than quadrupled.
There you go.
And there is a reason for that. It is because of the Joe Biden open border policy with catch and release. And have you noticed that none of the states that have sanctuaries are supporting Texas?
Imagine that.
It's because they get the tax benefits from the federal government, and so they don't want to go ahead and support Texas by securing the border. Texas has every single right to do so, even in the Constitution, even though that the Supreme Court needs to say that the Supremacy Clause takes over it. Actually, it doesn't, not when it comes to protecting the border. Governor Abbott has done such a great job that he literally put, like what I like to say, a giant middle finger to everyone in the federal government by going ahead and declaring a state of emergency. So he can go ahead and do whatever whatever he wants.
I'm supposed to be a pseudo, unbiased person, and you got me over here laughing, man. This is not a funny subject. Shame on me. Keep on going, man. I'm cutting you off. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. And Governor Abbott correctly doing what he needs to do. He needs to protect the people of his state.
Yes.
And by default, he's protecting the American people.
There you go.
And that is one thing that the Biden administration has failed to do globally and just locally on the executive branch, just everywhere.
Dude, I'm smiling because we think so much the same way on the subject. And, I know how you feel. You know how I feel. We have a constitutional duty. A country without borders is not a country. And that's the bottom line.
Not at all. No, not at all. And people say that borders are imaginary lines that not even animals will go ahead and contribute to.
Yeah.
There's actual been footage of wolves, most like while you're tracking them.
Mm-hmm.
So they got like several different packs in the area. All right. And these wolves never intersected with their packs. That's because borders aren't imaginary.
It's funny. Why does I heard that Joe Biden has a big old fence around his house in Delaware? I wonder why. Man, I need to stop. I'm supposed to be objective, and you're bringing the worst out of me. Look at here.
Look, that's what I do. So
well, you're good at it. Look, I have taken enough of your time. I have to thank you for coming on the show, putting me in a good mood. You always put me in a good mood when we're around. Please tell your family that I said hello, and I hope that we can have you on the podcast again sometime very, very soon. Anthony, you got anything else to say?
Just e pluribus unum.
Ooh, pretty cool. All right, brother. You take care of yourself, and thank you. Well, that's about it for now. This has been the Loyal Opposition Podcast, produced in association with Liberty Arise Media, Fallback Productions, and other podcasters. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and to this channel. Be sure to get your copy of my book, Black Values Matter, available on Amazon or as an ebook on Audible and on Apple Books. And also, remember, it's okay to disagree, but if we want our country to prosper, we must insist on unity, transparency, and civility from ourselves and our fellow citizens. Thank you for listening to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. See you next week.